lawnmower not start? Well, if that's the case, in this video, I'm going to show you how to fix that. Okay, so if your lawnmower does not start, I have created this simple checklist that you need to follow to make sure it will start every time. So let's go over what it is. Okay, so we're going to fix a non-starting lawnmower and give it a tune-up. So the first, these are in order by the way. First thing we have to do is drain out the old fuel, then clean the carburetor, then replace the air filter, then new spark plug, and lastly oil change. So without further ado, let's go. Also, huge shout out to my friend who donated this lawnmower to the channel. So dude, I know you're watching, so thank you. Okay, so this lawnmower has about half a tank of fuel in it, so we're going to drain that out. So the first step to draining the fuel from this mower is we're going to have to take off this air filter cover, which is just a flathead screwdriver. Just comes out like this. Just comes out like this. Air filter looks pretty good too. That's awesome. Set that aside. Next, we're going to have to take out these 3 bolts holding on this other half of the base. So there's one, yeah, right there. So 1, 2, and 3. And they're a 5/16 socket. Okay, so once you have the 3 bolts out, this cover should just pop off of here like this, as well as this top piece here. And be mindful there's a hose back here, just pull it off like this, and then you're good. So next, I'm gonna get my gasoline pan here, put it under here, and then what we're gonna do is get a pair of gloves on, so we don't make our hands smell like gas, which isn't fun. All right, so now we're gonna drain out the fuel. So get our pliers here and unhook the little clamp right here from the fuel line. Right, now once the clamp is removed, you can pull the fuel line off of the carburetor, and then the gas should start to come out into the drain pan. There we go. Now it's all gonna drain out into our little catch pan here, and we'll have to make a new fuel line for it later on in the video. So now let all the fuel drain out, and then alrighty, so going back to our checklist, the first step of draining the old fuel and oil, or draining old fuel I mean, is over. So awesome. Now we're going to go on to step 2, which is clean the carburetor. Alrighty, so on this mower, to take off the carburetor, there are 2 3/8 bolts, one there and one there. That's good. So now let's get our ratchet here with the 3/8 socket and take off the bolts there and there. And then once we get it off, we'll have to twist it out of the way to get the linkage out.
There's one.
Alrighty, so bolts. There's one bolt. Here's the other one. There we go. Now the carburetor's loose. So now to get the linkage off, what you're going to have to do is pull it out like this and then twist like this on the side here, and it kind of pops it out. And don't worry if a little bit of fuel spills out, that's normal. So now we'll take it to the workbench and take it apart and clean it out. Alright, so the first step to cleaning a carburetor is blow off all the dirt on the outside, or clean it off. So I like to use an air compressor with some compressed air and blow it off. It just makes the whole job a lot easier and cleaner. And needless to say, if you're using an air compressor or any sort of pressurized tool, make sure that you're wearing some sort of safety glasses, because you don't want that dirt going in your eye. Okay, so now that we have the carburetor all blown off with air, we're going to take off the bowl on the bottom. So it's a 1/2-inch socket on, and unscrew it. That wasn't very tight, that's not good. So next, take this out with your fingers. And I have it sitting in a pan because, as you can see, some fuel is coming out. So here we go. This is the main jet. This is likely our culprit as to why it won't start, so we're going to clean that out in a bit. But next, after the main jet's out, take off the bowl. There we go. Comes off of there. And next we'll inspect the bowl. And it doesn't look too bad. couple of floaties, but that's no big deal. And finally, we'll inspect the carburetor itself. So here it is. It looks pretty good to me. Just a little bit of old fuel, but we can clean that off. So the first step is going to be get some small wire. So the first step to a carburetor is cleaning out the main jet. So you can use actually one of those little twisty ties. You can strip off the plastic coating and use the wire from that. Or I like to use these torch tip cleaners. You can get it on Amazon. Just search up torch tip cleaner. And anyway, you're going to want to go through all the small holes. So there's one there, and there's one in the top there. Go through the holes with this to clean them out. So like this. And then go on the top one here. There we go. Set it aside. Next, go in the carburetor with a little bit of a bigger one for the center emulsion tube. So the upper one, go in there. Clean that out, and then go in the bottom one here. Clean that out as well. And next, flip it over here to the front. Go in, try to go in that one right there, and the small gold one there with these cleaners. There we go. And now, after you use the cleaner, you can either use a brake clean like this to spray it out, or I like to use the air compressor once again and blow through all the passages. So now I'm going to get the air compressor out, and we're going to blow through all the little passages here. So what you're going to do is hold this tight with your fingers so it doesn't blow away. Get the air compressor, blow in the top there, and blow on the side hole here. And that's the hole I'm talking about right there. All right, so after you do the main jet, get the carburetor itself here. And I like to blow the whole thing off in general, just to clean off any gunk that could be in there. There we go. Next, get in where the fuel line goes in here. Next, get in the center where the emulsion tubes are. Finally, get in over here in all three of these. So there's one hole there, then there's a small gold one there, then there's this one over here. Blow through all of these to make sure they're perfectly cleaned out. Now we're going to reassemble our carburetor. And when you're working on these, this lawnmower had a Briggs engine on it. When you're working on this kind, make sure this gasket is in good shape, because if it's not, then the primer won't work, because the gasket it'll just bypass the air and it won't work. So long story short, make sure the gasket is in good shape, and this one is, so that's awesome. And one more thing I should say is wipe out the bowl with a rag here. So there's, as you can see, there's a couple little specks in there. So we're gonna wipe it out with this towel here, and boom, clean. Now let's reassemble it. Gasket is in good shape. This one looks fine, so that's good. Put everything back together. The main jet, put it in here. And you want to get this snug. Don't go too crazy with the wrench, or else the gasket on the bottom will tear. That's good. Now I'm going to blow in here, and we're going to see if it works or not. When it's like that, air should not go through. So let's listen here. It's good. We'll put it upside down, and it's good. And no air goes through when it's upside down. So that basically means our float assembly is working correctly. So now we're going to put this back on the lawnmower. Okay, so now we're going to remove the old fuel line, which is this guy right here, and we're going to replace it with this one. Get the pliers again, go on the clamp. This guy, put it in a hard spot to reach. Pinch it, there we go. Next, pull this off. And then we're going to get our new fuel line and hold it up to the old one to get the correct length. And we'll go a little bit longer. That's fine. So we're going to cut it about here. Then it's going to be that much longer.
Hey Ryan, you gotta go to suck!
Okay, sorry about that. That was some guy on my street. Anyway, now we have the new fuel line with the clamps on it. So we're going to reinsert the fuel line onto the fuel tank down here. And be careful with this little nipple, because it's pretty brittle and you don't want to snap it off. So push it on like this. Next, get the clamp over here. And we're going to be a good mechanic and put the clamp in an easy to access spot like this. So So next, we're going to reinstall the carburetor onto the engine. Cleaned carburetor. We're going to twist it like this, get on the linkage, go back like that, then push it over here. And I'm going to hold it with one hand while getting the other bolt in the hole. And just kind of finger tighten the bolts for now. And then once you get them pretty finger tight, then you can use the ratchet to finish them up. And here's a good look at the bolt locations, because I don't think the shot earlier was very good. So here's one right there, the first one, and the second one is under there at the top right there. All right, so now you can use your ratchet, and again, just get them snug, don't over tighten them. There we go, and the carburetor is tight on the engine, which is what we want. So now what we're gonna do is reinstall the air box onto the carburetor. Okay, so when you're reinstalling the air box, you're gonna wanna realign the hole there and there with the 2 pins on the air box, which are right there and there. So when you put this on, make sure that you line up those holes with these pins. This will basically ensure that the primer gasket will be correctly seated over this slot here. And also make sure that you reconnect the little vent hose here to the nipple on the back here. Alright, so once you have the cover on, you can go ahead and retighten all the bolts. Alright, so let's go back to our checklist yet again, and now we can take off another step that we just did, which was clean the carburetor, so we can cross that off. Now we're going to go on and replace the air filter, then the spark plug, then we're going to see if it runs, and then after that, we'll do an oil change when the engine is nice and warm. Okay, here we are. Here we have a fresh air filter, so here's the old one, take it out. It's not bad. I would honestly consider reusing this, but whatever. Since I have a new one, we'll throw it in anyway. These ones go in, the filter pleats go towards this rib side here. So there we go. Make sure that you push them all in here, and then we can get this back on. There we go. Now, let's add some fresh gas and see if she runs. But first, we'll cross off air filter. And then if it doesn't start, we'll do a new plug and oil change. Alrighty, so just added some fresh fuel. I don't see any leaks where the carburetor is. So now, we'll prime it up and see if it runs. Alrighty, and while we're down here, I do have a new plug, so we'll throw that in just for extra insurance. That wasn't very tight. That's not a good sign. This old one looks, pretty wet with fuel. The new one, the one that came out of the lawnmower looks pretty wet with fuel here. And there's the other one that I'm going to throw in. It's used, but it works. So let's try it out. Let's try this out. Do not have spark. That's interesting, because I've never had one of these that didn't have spark. So next we'll try for that. So to check for spark, take out the spark plug. Okay, plug's out. Yeah, it's cold. It doesn't even feel like it started at all. Okay, next thing you're gonna do is clamp down the handlebar. Okay, so if you're a one-man band like me, what you're gonna do to check for spark is clamp the handlebar with a vice grip like this, then come back over to the mower and ground this out to the muffler right here. Make sure so I can see it. Ground it out right here, and then pull over the rope and watch there for spark. Which, yep, we're sparking. So now I'm going to try spraying the fluid directly into the cylinder and see if that solves our problem. Alright, so now the brake clean is directly in the cylinder. Now we're going to pull it over and see if this thing starts. A brand new plug in it. Now let's see if it'll start. Holy cow. let me try giving it some more fuel here. Okay, now let's try to restart it because I went through the whole carburetor again, cleaned it out, double checked, looked fine. Now let's see if it'll run. I bet it will now. And really? I'm gonna wedge this in there to hold the throttle open to get more air in there. There. Alright, let's cut the grass. Maybe. Let's see. Okay, well, seems to run pretty decent, so let's change the oil out. Alrighty, so for the oil change, pretty basic. All I'm gonna do is tip the mower up on its side and drain it into this pan. There it is. There it is. Yep, dirty, so we'll add fresh oil and then be ready to sell this thing. Alright you guys, so it's probably been 2 weeks or so since I made that last video clip, and I wanted to explain sort of why the mower wasn't running that well for part of the video. So, as you saw, it ran fine for mowing the grass, but before we ever cut the grass, it didn't run that well. And after I cut the grass off camera, I went to go pull it back, like fire it up, and it wouldn't start then. So, I thought it was a flywheel key issue. Turns out it wasn't, because I replaced that and it still, that didn't fix the problem. So then I did some research, and apparently it was the issue ended up being a coil problem, and the actual coil itself wasn't bad. It was actually just a little boot cover that goes on the spark plug. That was the problem, because I did some research and a bunch of people said to take that off and it should work fine. So I took the boot off, plugged it back in, and boom, worked fine. So just wanted to say, if your mower does this as well, check that, because that could be why it's not starting. So this video was supposed to be a quick and easy, oh, why won't your mower start? It was supposed to be a quick and easy kind of repair like that, but this video is a great example of how sometimes projects can, well, throw you off course a bit like they did me. So as you saw in the video, I thought it was the carburetor twice. It turns out it wasn't. So lesson here, do your research about what you're working on, and yeah, do research, and it could be some odd thing like the coil boot. Like, I never would have thought that would have caused the spark problem, but it did. So anyway, thank you for watching. Have a great weekend. See you next time. And also, sorry I haven't posted in a long time. I've just been really busy with school because, you know, grade 12 finishing up. But this summer, I've got some exciting stuff coming, boys. I've got a snowblower. I'm rebuilding my garage right now. I'm going to paint that thing, show you guys how to paint a snowblower properly. And then today I picked up a chainsaw. So I think we're going to replace the fuel lines in that, fuel lines, filter, maybe even rebuild it, who knows. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. And comment down below if you have ever had a project throw you off this bad before. Thanks.